Hello, welcome back. Things are getting exciting in this solo Brutal V Rising run. We are partway through Act 4, and today we're venturing into Gloomrot North, the spookier and deadlier Gloomrot. By the way, I'm Savalian. I make videos about games development and creativity. We'll do another devlog soon, probably, once I'm done with this editing all these videos, but for now, we are fully invested in this V Rising run. If you missed the earlier videos, here's what you need to know. I have the V Blood multiplier set to plus 25, the V Blood gear level set to plus 1, and I've turned up the loot and crafting stuff just a little bit to make it less grindy. And also, I don't believe in gear durability mechanics, so those are off. Okay, what are we doing next? Before heading into Gloomrot, I did a little bit of crafting. I made the dark silver longbow and used that to upgrade my ancestral weapon a second time and re-upped some potions and things. Gotta do your vampire chores. And with that, we are off to Gloomrot North, which I have already unlocked one of the waypoints for. This is just an easy thing you can do, is just run in and grab these waypoints when you have a little bit of free time, so you don't have to trudge in when you're ready to fight the boss. And the first boss we'll be fighting in Gloomrot North is Henry Blackbrew the Doctor. And this is how we unlock the last research table, the Athenium, and it will get us through the end of the game. So this is an important one. The Doctor lives in Transcendum Laboratories, where I assume he does all manner of creepy experiments. And the outside of this place is actually kind of cute. It's got this like rundown steampunk garden look to it. And as with Gloomrot South, watch out for the patrolling robots. They are even tougher up here. They can really do some damage. And there are also just some tough, like human mobs out here. The little brute guys with the shields, they can be really tough, so watch out for those. There is a little building in the labs, and this is where you'll find the Doctor himself. I do love this building though, it's very cool. I don't really understand the purpose, why this Doctor has made a small glass arena for himself to do his work in, but it looks cool, so I'm not going to complain. This is one fight I would recommend not using any skeletons or minions of any sort, and you'll see why. I didn't realize the error of my ways at first, so I went in with my skeleton build and did my first attempt. So Henry Blackbrew is a lightning guy, and this fight is very much like a bullet hell. It's got a lot of dodging and a lot of AoEs going on all at once. He will shoot small electric orbs at you that you can shield through or just dodge. He also does this little like 4-part AoE with some lasers that go out around where he's standing, so getting some range for this fight can help. He will also periodically create these big laser grids that spawn in at these like random points around the outside and through the middle, and you have just a moment to get out of them before they activate. So you gotta always be watching and moving on this one. Another thing he does, and the reason you shouldn't use minions on this fight, is a counter move that seems a bit longer than usual boss counter moves, and I actually realized this about halfway through the fight and calmly backed out to reset and change to a different shield and Chaos Volley, because if you hit him during this counter, it shoots off these electric orbs, and that is not good. I went into the retry attempt doing a bit better, but I got hit by a lot of things as I was still learning the fight and learning the movements. I attempted this one on my own during a previous run, during the same time when I was fighting Merwin and Morian on my own, but I was not able to get him down and came back with help, so I have a little bit of experience, but no successful experience before this run. At some point, the Doctor will start in on the most bullet hell-ish part of the fight. During my first full attempt, this happened at 50%, but in later attempts, it seems like it happened much earlier, so it might just be random. I'm honestly not really sure how a lot of these fights are like scheduled or structured. I just kind of take it as I go. And for that part, he'll do the laser grids and like a whole bunch of these little wiggly lightning orbs, which they do have like a consistent pattern so you can dodge them, but they're they're difficult to kind of see what's going on while you're dodging everything else. I died a few times. This is a pretty hard fight. There's a lot going on. And then eventually I was able to get to the next phase, which is when he will go to the middle and start pushing you backwards or outwards in these pulses. And his goal is to make you fall into the lasers at the edge of the ring. So you'll need to get back in towards the middle by using your veil or any other movement moves that you have, or potentially countering. I'm not sure if that will let you walk through the pulses or not. But you do not want to hit the lasers, obviously, if you can avoid that. After maybe 4 or 5 attempts, I got the doctor down. I'm pretty satisfied with that. And it was around this point in the run where I started to feel like I knew what I was doing. I got my confidence back after after Cyril beat me down. And I think facing some of the bosses that I had trouble with on normal mode and defeating them on brutal mode has really helped me feel a lot better about my skills in this game. On my way out of Gloomrot North, I made sure to stop by and smash some tech scraps at these little camps. This is the fastest way to farm tech scrap if you need any. And honestly, I ended up with way more tech scrap than I really needed, but it's useful for a lot of things. It's useful for research, other things, making those sludge canisters. And so you wanna have a good amount of tech scrap. Just be careful if the big piles start to spark with electricity, which can sometimes be kind of a subtle effect. You want to get as far away as you can before it explodes, because it does like a huge amount of damage. I've gotten killed by these things so many times before. And speaking of lightning, the next thing I'm going to do is possibly my least favorite part of V-Rising, and it is necessary, unfortunately. In order to craft a lot of the late game stuff, you need to charge up some batteries. So if you've been killing units in Gloomrot North and looting boxes, you've probably picked up a bunch of empty batteries, and you gotta charge them up, and we will eventually use these to create power cores. And there are 2 places on the map you can charge them. You can see them on the map because they'll say that they have like electricity or lightning as a resource on the little section there. And in order to charge them up, you need like sets of 10. They charge in sets of 10. And then the maximum at each area that you can do is 40, because there's 4 charging stations. So if you go to one of the areas that you can charge batteries at, you'll find these charging stations. You interact with them, you can click the button, it will take your depleted batteries for some amount of time, and then when it's done, you can take them back. And that is when things get more exciting, because after you remove the charged batteries, the area will start to spawn in more and more lightning. So there's the normal like blue lightning that Gloomrot North always has, and then there's additional like purple lightning that happens when you charge these batteries. And you cannot stand still in this place basically ever, so make sure that you are strong enough to survive without needing to blood mend, because you simply won't have the time. It will hit you and then your blood mend will be for nothing. You'll probably need to do at least 2 full battery runs during your game to craft one of everything that you need, and then you'll need even more batteries if you want to craft additional like legendary gear. I don't remember if the epic gear uses power cores. I know the legendary gear does. And then certain things like some of the late game like necklaces, the accessory gear requires the power cores as well, so you'll need a good amount of these, at least 2 runs probably. And if you're on a multiplayer server, you'll also need to make sure that nobody else has charged batteries recently, because these charging stations, as you'll see, will take a little bit of time to reset. With the new research table unlocked, I built it immediately and started making the last level of research item schematics, which we make out of scrolls and tech scraps. And schematics are also dropped by a lot of the Silverlight units, so you might have some of these already. After some more vampire chores, I went out to face another boss. This time we're going to the Cursed Forest, and this one is kind of a silly one. Matka the Curse Weaver is interesting. I don't really know what's going on visually with this character. I'm guessing it's probably based on some sort of mythology that I just don't know about. But this is another boss that relies on a lot of stinky poison puddles. But that's not all. There are also lots of mosquitoes and little green projectiles. And the fun part, every once in a while, she will turn you into a pig for a little bit. And you just have to do your best to avoid taking damage during your pig time. The trickiest part of this fight, and the one that's going to be most likely to cause you problems, is that she will sometimes spawn these exploding green poison mosquitoes. And these, I'm guessing, I don't know that I got hit by any, but I'm guessing these do a big amount of damage when they explode. They could probably kill you. But otherwise, this is really just a more complicated version of Gore Swine. You want to dodge the poison puddles, kill the ad mosquitoes, avoid the green exploding mosquitoes, and just keep chipping away at boss health. I used my normal like skeleton build, green versus green, and I got her down in one try. This is one of the easier fights in my opinion, brutal or not. I don't think I've seen very many people have a lot of problems with this one. But if you do, it's probably because you're getting caught in poison a little bit too often. So just try to stay on your toes, work on those mobility skills, and I think you'll be okay. As relatively easy as this fight is, she does unlock some very important stuff. She unlocks the Advanced Loom and Ghost Thread, both necessary for late game armor, so it's good that we got this unlocked now. I did some vampire chores, mainly getting this new loom built. For the Ghost Thread you need some truly ridiculous materials, 2 other kinds of already made thread, wool thread and cotton thread, and some mushrooms. Again, I will never forgive Stunlock for what they did to the fiber crafting in this game. it's absurd. This is not how fiber crafts work, but you know, they can do what they want, I guess. You're going to need a decent amount of the ghost thread, so I would recommend farming up a ghost shroom seed or two to plant in your garden, so that you can get it when you need it. I'm also still on that paper and schematics grind, literally grinding up flowers into pollen to make thread out of it, because that makes sense. But I'm also doing a lot of chopping down trees, things like that. I felt a little bad wasting a blood moon doing vampire chores, but sometimes you just gotta do the tedious stuff so you're prepared when you go back to the boss fights. I spend a lot of time refining gems and making jewels to be sure that I have the best build that I can have right now, because this is the part of the game where things start to get a little harder. You know, we've got a pretty consistent difficulty curve, like it does just get a little bit harder as you go through the game. Very well balanced in my opinion. You know, we've had a couple of these fights that seemed extra hard, but in general, you know, it gets more difficult at a pretty good pace. And the next 4 bosses are some of the last ones that unlock really critical materials. And then after that, we get into what I consider the end game. A lot of the characters after that provide like end tier gear and soul shards, things that you don't need until sort of the final boss fight. And then of course at the very end we've got Dracula. I did another batch of vampire chores. This is actually a real life day after the ones that I just did through the magic of editing. I'm focused on making pristine leather and stocking up on prisoner blood. And then we head out to fight the next boss, Terrorclaw, Frostmaw's older brother. Actually, they might be totally different kinds of creatures, I'm not sure. I don't really know a lot of the V Rising lore, which is funny given the number of times I've played it, but they both seem Yeti-like to me. So Frostmaw's older brother feels like an accurate label, and this guy's pretty tough. I was also slightly under-leveled compared to the level difference when I faced a lot of other bosses on Brutal. So I do have some trouble with this one, and we leave and we come back a couple times. But let's talk about his moves and what he does. As I mentioned, Terrorclaw is a nice boy, and his moves are extremely similar to Frostmaw. He is in a cave. He stays in this cave, so you are somewhat limited in movement, but you also don't have to worry about like random obstacles or running into mobs. And it's a pretty big cave, but you will see it sort of rapidly fill with ice blocks and AoEs. He will smash the ground pretty frequently and drop icicles from the ceiling, creating these like ice blocks on the floor that you think would help block some moves, but mostly it just limits your movement and gives him ammunition for one of his other moves later. He will also fire out these long ice AoEs that are either 1 line or 3 lines in a cone, and these are pretty big. Do not get hit by these. As with any ice type move, if you get hit like twice too quickly, it will freeze you, and that causes its own problems. The scariest move that Terrorclaw has is the one where he grabs one of the icicles off the floor and chucks it at you like a spear. This is a very hard-hitting move, and it could instant kill you if you're at lower health. And it also blasts right through these ice blocks, so you cannot use them to block that move, but you can shield through it, so be aware of that. And even though that's sort of the scariest move, it is not the most dangerous one in my opinion. Later in the fight, he will do this move where he spawns all these little like homing ice balls. They will target you, and they're pretty quick. Somewhat similar to the lightning balls in the Ziva fights. The professional thing to do is to use the ice blocks in the room to soak these up, but it can be hard to find a good place to stand since they are capable of a little bit of movement. So do your best, and you can also shield through these if you have a shield available, but the way that they move makes this kind of difficult. He will also rarely do a big leap that is pretty clearly telegraphed. Just get out of that one. He didn't seem to do it very often for me, but I expect that can be pretty devastating if you get caught in it. After like 4 or 5 attempts, I got a little frustrated and figured I'd come back with some better gear. So I grabbed my bag and I went from the icy mountain wasteland to the big city to farm some money for books, some schematics to unlock better gear, and also some gold necklaces to melt down later. After releasing some tension by tormenting the humans a little bit, I went back to Terrorclaw with slightly better gear, putting him at a yellow level difference instead of an orange one. This time I feel like I saw a different kind of ice move, where instead of just little homing ice balls, it's waves of the ice balls. And it feels strange to me that during my previous attempts, I don't think he did this, and now he is. But, you know, I think Terrorclaw just has a lot of different moves, and I think he uses them partially at random and partially based on how close you are to him. So I think people just don't always see the same exact movesets. And I think at this point in my run, I must have been really busy with real life stuff because my attempt was not that bad, but I still stopped and went to Silverlight to farm stuff after another attempt. I also got another servant around this time from Silverlight, so I could use him to farm gold and schematics a little more effectively, because, you know, all the servants have these traits, and if you get one, they can collect things better in their like hometown basically. So I got a Silverlight servant. I also tried to get to Azariel the Sunbringer, but I died trying to get up the stairs to the church that he lives in and gave up on that before I even did an attempt. I simply did not have the patience for that. The holy humans outside the church that were blocking my entry were really, really pissing me off. So, back to Terrorclaw again. I don't think I had any better equipment during this attempt than the previous attempt, but what I do have is practice from all the failed attempts that came before. You know, it's always going to help to get a feel for the timing on a lot of these moves because it means you can use your shield better, it means you can move out of the way at the right time. And you know what? That was enough. I got Terrorclaw down, finally. He will terrorize me no more. And now that Terrorclaw is down, we can make the advanced tannery, which we will need for some later recipes, but I think currently it just goes faster than the one we have, which is good. And now that I have nothing stalling me, Azariel is next. God, I remember raging so hard trying to get into this church. I died on these steps more than once, and it's an annoying run back. There is a little side entrance to the city that puts you pretty close to the church, but getting up and into the doors without getting targeted by a roving pack of like paladins or something is a task. I ended up walking most of the way in human form, and it actually kind of worked. Be careful because some of these holy guys can still detect you. I think the light weavers at the very least, and I think the paladins as well. So you will want to keep your distance from some of these holy characters. And if I didn't mention it already, you do need the fancier version of the holy resist potion to survive in here. It won't be enough to just have the minor one. The holy radiation is simply too high. So let's talk about Azariel. Much like his lower level counterpart Raziel, he shoots out a lot of holy orbs, and it's all very annoying. Another bullet hell fight with a relatively squishy boss because he is he is a priest. There will also be periodic damage from these sacred object things in the room where they will do this holy laser that actually takes up quite a bit of the arena, and that will continue even after Azariel is dead. So be careful when you're looting afterward that you're not just standing in holy damage. And here are some of the things that Azariel does. He does a fairly large AoE holy blast that shredded through my skeletons, as well as a few expanding rings of holy orbs that you can move between pretty easily if you're a little bit farther away. He will also do that holy orb move, but in a cone with a little bit more range. And I ate these with my shield whenever I could, because this is like a quick, easy way to get like maximum shield charges depending on the shield that you're using. And he will also shoot out this slow moving orb that does a really big AoE if it hits something. So you want to avoid that because it will explode if you touch it. He will also call down this rain of holy orbs. Lots of holy orbs, lots of big AoEs. My skeletons are mainly targeted by that one, so that one wasn't too big of a deal for me. And then, as I said, these statue things will do this holy attack, and it's a big laser that sways back and forth. It does have limited range, like it doesn't go all the way through, but the thing is, both of these things can activate at the same time, and they go through and they pretty much cover this entire area. So it's tricky to get out of the way of these things. I also got ads in the middle of the fight, but I couldn't tell if they wandered in or if they were like summoned as part of the fight. So watch out for any ads that show up. And he does seem to shield the ads, so be careful about that as well. He'll also shield himself from time to time. He probably does the ads first so they can protect him, and then himself if there's no ads. And then finally, he will summon a little holy orb ad, another move straight from the Raziel fight that you will want to destroy before it can do its big move. The laser beams were the most annoying, and they weren't even part of Azariel's like moveset. They're just part of the environment. Because they would frequently trigger at the same time, making the entire center of the arena a danger zone while you're trying to dodge the things that Azariel is doing. So that was tough. And one nice thing is that at some point he got himself wedged into a corner, and it did a lot of the work for me, blocking some of his moves. So that was kind of fun. And this was an extremely long fight for me, but surprise, I got him in one attempt. And I remember mentioning when I did this that it's a good thing that I got him in one because I was so angry about the run back. I'm not sure I would have been able to do another attempt. I think I would have had to take a day to cool off because getting repeatedly killed on the church steps by 1,000 paladins was making me so mad. But with Azariel dead, we don't have to come back here ever again. We can make gold bars out of the necklaces that we've been stealing off of the rich townsfolk. And we do need a pretty good amount of gold bars. Alongside the batteries, we use the gold for almost all of the late game items, which means I'm sending my servants out to gather more sulfur as well. And now on to the last boss we'll fight in this video. For this we'll need to go back to Gloomrot North to the Transcendum power plant. Just like with every other Gloomrot area, you're gonna make your way through a bunch of little guys and go into a building at the furthest part from the entrance of this area. And in that building, we're gonna find our next boss target, Voltatia the Power Master. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but we have a huge open arena for this one, and we're gonna need it. This obviously is another electricity-based boss. Voltatia has some similar moves to the Doctor, but with a few differences. The main difference is that Voltatia's got a big gun that shoots a big electric laser beam that follows your movement. It's kind of slow, it's not super fast, but you will need to stay quick on your feet. And it also helps to be closer to Voltatia because of that turning radius. You can get around the side a little bit faster if you're closer. There will also be a big electrical AoE, like a big dome, that you don't want to get caught in, as well as some lightning walls that obviously will hurt you if you try to walk through them. Voltatia also has the power of invisibility, or at least some kind of cloaking device. They can vanish, run around the arena, and reappear somewhere else, usually with their big laser ready to go. And much like a lot of the other invisible creatures in this game, you can see like a shimmer as they're running around. It's hard for me to see sometimes. I can't always tell where they are. If they've got a dot on them, the numbers I think will give it away as well. And then at some point, Voltatia will split into multiple clones, and each of these clones will do all of their attacks, and they do not do them in like a synchronized way, so it's pretty tricky to dodge both of these at once. And the strange thing is that their health seems to be connected, so do damage to one, it will do damage to the other one, even though their moves are definitely not connected. This fight took me several tries because I kept getting caught up by the lasers and the electrical barriers, but eventually I got Voltatia down. Afterward, I did one more battery run since I was nearby, and I had a ton of batteries that I picked up anyway. I truly hate this part, but it is a necessity. There's no other way to get filled batteries. I would be forever grateful if they would let you send servants to get them. Maybe you could have, like, you have to charge one set of batteries yourself and then you can do it, but currently every time you need power cores you have to charge the batteries yourself. But now that we've defeated Voltatia, we can actually make the power cores, we can use the batteries for something, and we will need power cores for a lot of things in this game. One thing is the EMP, which we actually need to get to one of the final bosses. So you will want to make a couple of EMPs at some point. Maybe you just need one if you can first try Adam, but I personally could not, so I would recommend making a couple, or at least being prepared to make a couple. And you also use power cores to make some of the amulets that we need, the final level of amulets. And so you need a lot of these. I would recommend doing your battery runs early so you can get them out of the way and not worry about them anymore. And with that, we're going to end this video here. I had actually forgotten about a couple of the upcoming bosses when I started writing this video. So we do have, I think, 3 more parts to this series. That's my estimate. We'll see how it turns out when I write things up and edit them. But I think we've just got 3 more videos after this one. But we are so close to the end, and we got some big challenges coming up. Big, exciting challenges. A lot of the end game is super fun. So please, if you're still here, give this video a like. Subscribe if you'd like to do that, because I will be back soon with another video, and I hope to see you there. Bye bye!